Hello, everybody. My project is entitled The Saturated Slate of the Rothko Chapel. It concerns the non-denominational chapel housing 14 canvases by Mark Rothko that was built on the grounds of the Menil Collection Museum in Houston, opened in 1971. Rothko himself died by suicide in 1970. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the chapel, here is a very quick visual tour. So this first slide shows us approaching the chapel from the south. In the foreground is the reflecting pool with Barnett Newman's broken obelisk, which was designed to be included in the chapel precinct. Approaching closer toward the entrance and then inside, facing north, facing the apse, you can see the sparse furniture, a few cushions on the floor, and those benches. You can also see partially at least 5 out of the 8 walls that constitute the octagonal structure of the chapel. Approaching close to the apse, showing the skylight, which was renovated during COVID and is now in use. That's the natural lighting that is used in the chapel. Closer again, and then turning towards the left or the west. Now you can see the delineations that make of that apse series a triptych. There are 3 triptychs in the chapel, one on the west wall, one on the east wall, and this one on the apse. Looking further towards the west, you now see the west wall triptych. As I say, there's a symmetrical one on the east wall. And finally, full 180 degrees, now facing back south, and the entrance doorways. Now this chapel, its design, its purpose, and its contents could be approached from a number of points of view. Religious history, architecture, art history, politics. It is dedicated to human rights. None of those are my fields of expertise, even if I have dabbled in this one or that. Literary scholars tend to give themselves the liberty of talking as if with authority about various subjects raised by literature, and conversely, non-literary scholars sometimes give themselves the liberty of talking as if with authority about literature. So my interest lies precisely in asking the question of how to talk about this chapel, and more specifically, how to talk about what one might call the experience of it, as quasi-religious space, as museum, as space of meditation or reflection. To do that, I used the term saturated slate of my title, in contrast with clean or blank slate, tabula rasa. The sparse space, the almost monochrome canvases, the silence, all point to a type of blankness. To the extent that religion remains a point of reference for the chapel, one is supposed to empty oneself here. And even if we put religion aside and treat it as a museum, a similar sense of quiet hallowedness still obtains. In fact, the visitor is explicitly told to stay quiet. But I would argue this blank slate is also filled. That goes in the first instance for Rothko's canvases, which look somewhat like slate in another sense, that is the finely grained foliated metamorphic rock used, for example, in flooring. So Rothko's slates are saturated with very dark colors. And it goes also for a certain logic or teleology of emptying. One empties something or oneself in order all the more to refill it or be filled. A pure blank or empty slate would be blankness, emptiness, and nothing else. An absolute emptiness that is very hard to conceive of. I'll approach the blank or saturated slate from the point of view of what is my expertise in the broad sense, namely writing. Why is it that from the moment I entered this space, approximately 30 years ago, and whenever I have returned to the chapel, on various occasions, according to my estimation, I've spent up to 20 hours there. Why is it that I invariably find myself filled with the need to write something? What would I, what could I, what will I write, as it were, in this blank space, which is also, of course, this is part of the idea of a clean slate, a blank or white page. That, then, is the exploration that I plan to follow through on in the context of my Cogut Fellowship. Thanks for listening.